last video focused on the primary document relating to Article 61, the Oath to the Committee of Barons, and included instructions on how to correctly fill out and register this oath. This time we are moving on to the notices which we've mentioned before, and which we will need to underline and reinforce our resistance to the unlawful actions of our government bodies and departments. The most important of these are the local councils, which are utterly without any constitutional authority whatsoever, the police and the courts. Then there are the various departments which may make unlawful demands on us for the purpose of raising revenue for the Crown. We must always remember that any legislative law or act which causes loss to some people on an inequitable basis is contrary to common law and thus undermines the Constitution and is therefore treasonous. However, we have been conditioned for our whole lives to think that when government says jump, our response must immediately be to ask how high. This doesn't just apply to everyone living today, but has been happening for centuries. The common law of the land has been usurped by a legalized system of Roman law, or the law of the sea. If we ask ourselves, what is the law of the sea? The answer that springs to mind is piracy. And if the captain of one vessel orders his crew to invade and subdue and rob another vessel on the high seas, there is little to prevent that, other than the innate ability of the intended victims to defend themselves and their possessions. They may hope to bring the aggressors to trial later, but history teaches us that this can be a long shot, even if the subdued victims are not subjected to summary disposal. How this metaphor translates into the situation facing us all is that our legal system has evolved into what is commonly termed the establishment, into which are welcomed lawyers, barristers, judges and politicians, insurance underwriters, bankers and financiers, etc. These have all been trained in the intricacies of the legislated laws, which have accrued over time, the language and processes of which are obscured from the view and knowledge of the common people. It's designed to instill fear and compliance in anyone unfamiliar with these things. As American comedian and social commentator George Carlin once stated, "It's a big club and you and I ain't in it." So imposing has become this edifice, which now extends globally, that most people are cowed into submission before even thinking about resisting it. And this doubtless explains much of the extraordinary displays of compliance we have witnessed from a propagandized public over the past 2 years in particular. People have been given orders which are not only unlawful, but blatantly illegal even from the point of view of those running the club and making up the laws. These include such abuses as being ordered not to go to work, or leave their homes, or attend weddings and funerals of loved ones, and eventually to undergo medical procedures against their own wills and better judgment. All these impositions have inflicted immense damage to the community, yet many people are either content to be treated like this, believing it to be for their own or others' benefit, or simply too afraid to speak out against it. Article 61, however, provides us with the tools to resist this type of tyranny, and more people are waking up to it every day. Naturally, the powers that be want to have this knowledge concealed, because to have it revealed to the masses in a short time could well provoke widespread outrage, as people realise how depraved has been the level of illegal and unlawful abuse heaped upon them. But with Article 61, and thanks especially to David Robinson and his 20 years of persistent research, we have a means of peaceful dissent, which eventually backs our oppressors into a corner. As said before, it is not only a royal command to avail ourselves of this tool, but it is our duty as holders of the rights to freedom to use it to preserve those for future generations. To any parents who think that there are other things more pressing or important than protecting their children from the veritable slavery that threatens them, I would respectfully suggest that they take some time to thoughtfully reconsider their priorities. Without freedom, we have nothing. Let's now examine the first of these notices, the Notice of Lawful Objection to Police. At the top, as with the oath, we enter the name, job title and address of the person to receive the notice, followed by our own details, standard stuff. The heading tells us that we are informing the highest ranking officer that we can find of our standing under the constitutional law, and it notifies them or their agent or subordinate that the information applies to all of them, that they must in fact notify their colleagues of our notice and what it contains. It then states, we have taken the oath to the barons, and that we are lawfully bound to disobey any unlawful demands placed upon us, no matter by whom, but especially those who claim to be agents of the Crown. The vast bulk of the document then details evidence of multiple acts of treason, undertaken not only by the British government, but also by our Australian government. All these claims are indisputable, and we finish by including a copy of our signed and registered oath, together with the postal receipt for the registered post by which this notice is sent. Before we reach the stage of signing and getting our notice witnessed, there is a clear statement that if the officer can repudiate our claim about Article 61 being in effect, or any of our evidence of treason, that we will then accept that they have lawful authority to make demands on us. But if not, then any future attempts to enforce unlawful acts, statutes or demands will be construed as harassment, coercion, and demanding money with menaces, for which they will have to face the consequences. This notice is sent to alleged authorities who have not yet made demands upon us. So its purpose is to notify them that we are aware of the law and our respective positions about our standing within it. For those alleged officers or agents who have made demands on us, the notices are slightly different, but the purpose and the evidence are the same, namely to inform and warn them that we are aware of our rights and the law, and they are running a big personal risk if they decide to step outside the lawful bounds of their jurisdiction. We refer to these agents and officers as alleged, because we must remember that they work for corporations whose ABN numbers we can look up, and as such they have no more authority over us than the local newsagent or store proprietor. They are impostors masquerading as Crown officials. When we get to the action of signing our notice, we see that there are 3 witnesses needed. The procedure is very similar to that with the oath, except we can see that there are the letters PP. This stands for the Latin per procurationem, which indicates that a person is signing a document or letter on behalf of someone else. This provision exists because it is often impossible or impractical to get 3 independent witnesses into one meeting, especially if there are numbers of these notices being sent at close intervals. Clearly, we need to ensure that we have the permission of these people to perform this action, which is not too difficult. The witnesses, as with the oath, need to understand that they are not making any legal or lawful commitment to any future action. They are merely fulfilling a legal requirement that lawful documents need to be witnessed. They are not indicating that they necessarily support whatever future actions the signatory may undertake. As before, copies and information about these documents can be obtained from the email address shown, as well as the details contained in the notices. There is a wealth of information available from sources such as the website of Practical Lawful Dissent International on Facebook. Especially recommended is the book The Emperor Has No Clothes by David Robinson, which shows real examples of how this process has peacefully caused aggressive government agents, including police and even a judge, to withdraw from making their unlawful demands on law-abiding citizens. Next time, we will examine what happens if officials do not respond to our notices. Thank you.